Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, 3-step blueprint to revitalize your hybrid culture. Thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate your time that you make available, your precious time to be with me for the next 30 minutes to learn something new of how we can boost your hybrid culture. Hello, my name is Beate. For those that haven't met me before, my name is Beate Norden. I'm the founder and director of Team Talks. We are a consultancy for organizations that help to develop high-performing teams. And my personal mission is to create workplaces where we come to lift each other up rather than putting each other down. That's really my personal goal, and we go into that in a moment. Now, I already said I'm grateful that you make the time today, because protecting time in the diary for something that is important is a big key aspect of what we're going to talk about today. Now, I'd love to hear where all you are coming from, and would love to hear from the chat. At least, can you put down in the chat for me, how are you working at the moment? As in hybrid, maybe just away from the office, completely remote, or 100% office. That would be amazing if we can have your, if I can help you help here to keep it a little bit engaging. Please use the chat, hands on keyboard. Are you currently working hybrid, remote, or 100% in the office? That would be amazing. And I will wait for the chats to come through. So yes, let us know where you are working today. Now, by the way, this session is being recorded. It is live on LinkedIn. And if in case you have to move elsewhere because someone is calling for you, this is being recorded. You can rewatch it. Just in terms of technology, I have a bit of a challenge because there is a 10 seconds delay between the beautiful offer of StreamYard, which is what I'm using to stream this, and then arriving on LinkedIn. So I'm waiting for your answers here a little bit to know where you're coming from. There is a bit of a 10 seconds delay. Thank you for that. And then, of course, for everyone who is rewatching the video, again, welcome. Lovely to meet you. And we're going to discover today a 3-step blueprint to make sure that you revitalize your culture. So thanks, everyone. I can see here some things are happening in the chat. We are working hybrid. Kelly, hey, good to see you. And Rob is here, 95% remote. See, that's heaps. What did David say? I can't quite actually see. Full answer, hybrid. We've got another LinkedIn user with hybrid. Great that that is coming through. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, that's not what I wanted. But yeah, look, we've got Rob here with 95% hybrid. We've got Kelly with hybrid. Thank you very much. So a lot of people with hybrid, which makes sense because that's probably why you're here today. So thank you very much. All right, so I thought we start with a bit of, I always like to look at words and what they actually mean. And to get you started, I want to look at what does culture actually mean? So often we think about culture and we tend to forget what it actually means. So I looked at the Oxford Dictionary. The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. And that's interesting, right? Because the big thing we forget, often we think company is set or culture is set from the top in organizations, or culture is set from the leader. But in fact, it is a collective experience. Now, to me, when I think of culture, it's this. Think of all your team members and think of all their one-on-one interactions with their colleagues, customers, and managers throughout the day. And when you add all that up, that's when you have culture. Now, the other interesting thing, and I thought I put that in here, was the biology description of what culture actually means. And you think of the research thing I used to do at school, but it says this here: maintain tissue cells and bacteria in conditions suitable for growth. And isn't that what it is? Isn't that what culture is? We have to maintain a condition where people thrive, where people feel safe, where people feel happy. And to me, so it's so true that culture has got nothing to do with productivity and outcome. That is a result of culture, yes. But what culture really is humans and the human condition, and creating places where the human condition can thrive. And when we work in hybrid, that can often break down because we are so disconnected from other humans, in particular in the workplace. So I wanted to share something with you today, a research study by Atlassian. Now, for those, I think most of the people here would know what Atlassian is. One of the unicorns, tech unicorns in Australia, thank you very much, and now worldwide, of course. And they're putting a big emphasis on creating team cultures. So they even have a whole research team that researches the state of teams. If you're interested in that, it's all free available. They even have a bit of a playbook for leaders that you can use to create thriving team culture. So I highly recommend it. But the research they did was this. So they have made a decision that they have intentional togetherness gatherings. That's how they call them, intentional togetherness gatherings. Because most of their workforce is, I think, only asked to come into the workplace 4 times a year. That was a big statement they made initially. And they measured the 3 components, and I'm going to show that here. They measured 3 components of how people felt in relation to their work before the intentional togetherness meetings and after. And what you see here is the biggest increase was the team connection. 27% increase in team connection because of an intentional team gathering. Now you might think, well, that's kind of logical because you actually connect as teams, but it's good to have that in numbers. And what we have to say is that those team gatherings normally for them last 3 to 5 days, and they keep it rather small to a group of 16 people. So we really have time to interconnect and do one-on-one connections, and they do a lot of activities to look at the team. What also increased, what you can see here, is the individual team alignment. So the alignment with my own personal work and that of the team, which is really, really important in culture, because sometimes when we are working at home the whole time, the problem can be that we think, and now what? Why am I doing this? How I'm connected to the bigger purpose? And we know that we need to have a bigger purpose to order for strive for something bigger. So that is increasing as well, the individual alignment with my work and the team and then the organization. And we also give more time and space to develop new ideas. Now that is their research. And this is not the 3-step process I'm going to introduce to you today. But what I found more interesting was this, which is the connection boost of 27% and then the decay from the team gatherings. So what they found in their research was that obviously connection went up after they meet each other, and then it took about 3 months to 4 months to fall back to old or even lower, which means it kind of has a lasting effect that we meet for a certain amount of time and then it falls down. Now, the psychology behind that is quite logical because we are wired for tribes, and when we are not connected with our tribes and don't hear on a regular basis, I matter, I feel valued, I see you, I'm being recognized, I'm being validated, people care about me. If I don't have that constant feed of that confirmation, guess what? My brain goes to a state of assumptions. Assumptions of, I wonder if I still belong. I wonder if this person actually thinks of me. I wonder if my manager actually sees what I'm doing. And these assumptions is where the only, I guess that is the only, almost only disadvantage of hybrid teams. And I'm going to jump in that in a moment. But what the research at Atlassian also showed is when we feel more connected in teams, it also connects with other ways how we look at work. We feel we are better at collaboration, better at communication, and better at our job as it is. We have more motivation. So there is a correlation between team connection and feeling better all over, embedded in the culture. And the output is, yes, higher productivity, which is what we all want, right? But that's the output. So we have to look at the input first. Now, if we do have no connections or little connection over a period of time, what's happened is that we feel disconnected. Now, when we feel disconnected, look at this little kitty cat here. I don't know if you've ever seen fighting cats or a cat just trying to protect itself from the dog, for example. This is what we feel like. Our psychological stage is fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah. In the workplace, that could look like this. Someone is micromanaging me. Leave me alone. That's what I would think. People make fun of me, maybe in Teams meeting in front of other people. That doesn't feel nice. That doesn't feel nice. Maybe someone even blames me for something I haven't done, or someone takes credit for what I've done. Yeah, these are the things that happen when we feel disconnected. But overall, it's not a good state to be in. And we've got numbers for that. So some of the numbers that happen are these. We have 67% of Australians, according to the Gallup Workplace Report, are quiet quitting. Yeah. What does quiet quitting mean? Quiet quitting means, here are some examples. Let's say we are in a digital transformation project. And I notice this new system, there is a bug in it, or something doesn't quite work, or actually I have an idea how this could work better, or A has to connect with C. But because I'm quiet quitting, I go, yeah, someone else will find out about it. They sort it out. This is lost opportunity. So quiet quitting is not harmful to your organization overall, but what it is you don't use the full potential of your team. So we're not unleashing the full potential. The next statistic I want to share with you, and we all would have heard by now about the Great Resignation, and people are leaving a lot. Almost half of the workforce are actively watching for jobs or looking at jobs. Now just think of your workforce. That is humongous. That doesn't just translate in the resignation itself, but just think of someone looking and the effort they would put in even 6 months before they actually leave. And the vibes they're sending out to their teammates and the care they have about their teammates or the manager or their role. So the quiet quitting, of course, connected with watching or looking, would decrease the potential of the team. But overall, one of the reasons why we're probably quiet quitting or why we're looking for a new job is because we are just exhausted. Not just from the workplace, because of life. We know life financial stresses, COVID, anything else, the war, over 50%, 47% are feeling stressed a lot. Yeah, what does that mean? It means that I am that cat just trying to protect myself. And I just think, leave me alone. I'm going into my cave and leave me alone. So how can I overcome that and make people want to join into a step, into a process where we actually feel more connected? And for a start, it could be even just as simple as talking about what good could look like. Let's imagine. Yeah, let's imagine how would good look like if people feel they are connected, if people feel they are supported. Over here, let's say this is the beehive. Over here, I feel I know what I'm doing. I feel I know what my colleague is doing, and I know that we've got each other's back. And this is the key component. We have got each other's back. I feel safe. That's the state of psychological safety. Now, imagine you're leading a team like that, either the fighting cats or the humming beehive. Which one would you rather lead? I mean, and how much energy would it take you? The secret is, though, if you lead those teams, a humming beehive won't stay a humming beehive if culture is not steered to keep it that way. If you let culture happen, then culture will steer you, and all you have to do is react to the resignation that might land on your desk. Whereas if you actively use the culture, that's when you have control over it. Now, on the other side here, where I have the fighting cats, my feeling is I don't feel supported. I don't feel connected. I worry that I don't belong. I worry people don't like me. And that often comes from fight, flight, or freeze, right? So I want to share with you why I'm so passionate about this concept of creating workplaces where we have energy left in the tank by the end of the day because we feel supported, rather than being drained because we feel we have to fight the whole time. Let me introduce you to Mark. Mark is my husband, and he used to work in one of these workplaces. Yeah, he used to work here with the fighting cats. He had a manager that was stuck in the 80s, kicking, threatening, not kicking physically, by the way, threatening, pushing him to do something, humiliating him in front of others, screaming even in front of others. And guess what state he came home in? Yeah, this is what it feels like all day. So when he got home, guess what? Now, just to navigate that, luckily, there was no case of domestic violence, right? But internally, that's probably what he felt like. Like, who can I punch today to leave out all that extra stress? Now, I want to give you a scenario, what that actually looks like in the real world. One example was this. One night, I'm cooking dinner. I'm in the kitchen. I've been buzzing around all day, working full-time, looking after 2 young children. I'm putting the steak in the frying pan, and I've got the tray of the steak and wanted to put it in the rubbish bin. And that was overflowing. So I asked Mark, who was sitting on the sofa watching TV, relaxing from a days of work, Mark, can you please take out the rubbish bins? And what was his response? No. Now, can you imagine what I felt? What I thought? Yeah. Now, in that moment, I wasn't very clever. I reacted, of course, with, I don't feel you know what I blamed him. I did the usual fighting cats of, you don't like me, you're lazy, you don't care about me, and you don't only think about yourself. I was that fighting cat. Now, after we had a courageous conversation and we calmed down, I actually found out what he really wanted to say was this. Beate, I'm super exhausted. I just want to sit here for an hour and calm down so I can be my best self at home. And can I please take out the rubbish bin when I'm ready for it? You see, That's kind of the thing, right? Relationships take effort and energy to hold our own emotions sometimes and look behind the scene. I love a quote by Brené Brown, who's one of the thought leaders on courageous leaderships and shame as well. What I love about her was an interview where she spoke about her relationships. So when she comes home after work, she has a routine with her husband to say, hey, how much energy do you have left in the tank today? And she might say 20, and he might say 40. And now what? Here's the big question. Now, how can we still bring it together to be at least 60 or 70% for our children? And to me, that is what a high-performing team is. And to me, that is what a high-performing hybrid culture is. It's not about being 100% all the time and output 100% all the time. It is about recognizing where are we, seeing each other as humans, and then thinking, okay, what is the best we can do today for each other, not against each other. When we get to that stage, that's when we have thriving culture. But that takes conversations, and those conversations need to be designed into your normal flow of work, because guess what? If they're not designed, they won't happen. Yeah. Otherwise, it will always end up on tomorrow. I do this tomorrow. I'll put this off tomorrow, because it never feels urgent. But if you make it a priority, it will happen. And that's the concept I'm going to introduce to you today. All right. So here comes the process overall, which I wanted to introduce to you. This is the 3-step model that you can implement in your teams every single month. And we start with this. The first one is you give your people time to think on their own, in their own time. And the World Economic Forum says critical thinking is one of the biggest factors in the future of work. Guess what? If you want people to think, you have to give them space and permission and time to think, and maybe help them to what to think about. So think of the whole process as a book club for teams, where we are all reading the same book and talk about it over time, and we will be on the same page by the end of it. So that's the bigger concept of it all. Now, think on your own is inspiring people with new ideas and take them out of their normal map of thinking, because we're so bogged down in task all the time, and give them the space to see something new. Maybe an idea of mental health, maybe an idea of better communication, personality styles, or how I can sleep better. Think of a bookstore. If you've been to the airport lately and you look at the top 100 selling books in Australia, you'd be surprised. Over 50% of those books are on the topic of self-help, communication, habits, money, health, sleep, all these things. Now, it's great to read this book on your own. And then you want to install new habits. And that's really difficult because your environment doesn't change with you. So you go against the environment. What happens if you read that book with one other person? What happens if you read that book with a whole team? What happens if you read that book with the whole organization at the same time? That's the potential here, where we all uplifted collectively at the same time, and we create an even playing field. No more titles, no more hierarchy. We all learn the same thing at the same time. So that's what we introduce. Then as a second component, we now add in the system the relationship with one other person. So once a month, you will meet with one other person in your team to repeat what you learned and reflect on it together. Some coaching questions are helpful, as in, how did that land for you? Does that apply to your own life? Have you seen scenarios like that before? And this is where we tap into the wisdom of the individuals to unleash their hidden ideas, which they normally probably wouldn't voice. Now, you'd be surprised. This peer talk, as I call it, is one of the biggest components and most popular components of the whole program. Just having 45 minutes in the diary once a month to make sure I speak meaningfully with one other person. And you can see it is the connection that we're managing. And then at the end of the month, what you do is you meet with the whole team and bring it all together. Repeat, which is good for retention. Hear about all the ideas. And then lastly, as a team, we could decide, maybe we talked about energy management. Hey, what could we use as a team to make sure we look after our energy? For instance, rules like, let's have at least 10-minute break between teams meetings, or no teams meetings on a Friday, or any meetings on a Friday, or we make sure we take a lunch break, or we buddy up to go for a walk if you're working in the office. And even if you work hybrid, you can make yourself maybe go for a walk and talk with someone from the office. So the little things like that is where we create common buy-in, where the whole team now works on the team. And we repeat that every month. So that's the big idea here. That's the big concept. So what I want to leave you with are some feedback I heard from this. So when I work with companies, I take them for 8 weeks through an initial program to get them into the system so everyone loves it. And then as a leader, you can continue on by yourself. And here is some feedback from the experiences. 4 pods became 1. And that was with energy conservation, where we had 16 people working full-time in the same office, in the same room, with 4 pods in the same room. Can you imagine that? Yet it was the first time that all of them worked on one thing together, connected on one purpose. And the manager and director said it did so much for the team effectiveness long term. I also run this program, so the whole concept won me a seat in the EY Foundry Accelerator program. And I ran a pilot with them. And Elliot was one of the participants, one of the managers. And he said, look, what was really great is that it fit into a busy schedule. You can do it hybrid. Their team worked already dispersed. They were 4 locations in APAC. Yet it made them connect more and see each other more as humans. And I asked them actually 12 months later to see what was the long-term impact of a 2-month intervention. And they said it was really the team connection, the building trust, the having courage to talk about it. And it was just brilliant. So I was very, very happy with that. And in numbers, if you are an analyst and you like some numbers, I did research. I did surveys before and after. And what you can see here is that the ease to be vulnerable, which is so important to build trust and have courage to speak up, went up. Knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, self-awareness, communication strategies, knowing personality styles, all the human aspects to understand when someone says no, that it might not mean just no. And I don't have to take it personal. And I can ask, what do you mean by that? If you come to that stage, you have done an amazing job. And last but not least is my favorite. I asked them also before the program, what was your energy level in the last 4 weeks on average? And what was your state of mental health in the last 4 weeks on average? And then asked them after 8 weeks, I asked the same. And both of those markers went up. And that was only after an 8-week program. So I'm inviting you to think about that as a concept, to unleash the hidden potential of your team. Because it's not about changing people out of your team. It's about getting to know them and understand what do they need, not what do they want. What do they need in order to feel safe and supported? So with that, I like to leave you with, of course, if you want to install that in your teams, I'm working as a consultant. I do have a program, but I can also help your leaders to install this for themselves. And I'd love to connect and just continue the conversation. You can use this QR code here. That will take you straight to my Calendly link. And you can book in a time to speak with me for 30 minutes. And as a special gift for those people that make a quick decision, the first 5 people who sign up and book in a time in my diary today will receive a free facilitator guide, With that facilitator guide, you can start with your team tomorrow. I take really good content available and I put it together as a beautiful recipe for 3 months, how you can talk your team through the Teamship program. That is normally valued at $145. So the first 5 people who sign in, you are welcome. Now I'd like to open the room for some Q&A. If you have feedback, if you have questions, and if you don't have any questions, please put in the chat, what has been your biggest takeaway today? As I'm running 10 seconds behind, you would have experienced a bit of a gap right now. So I'd love for you to put in the chat again, what has been your biggest takeaway, or do you have any questions? And please connect with me on LinkedIn, stay in touch. Anyone that is connected to the same purpose of creating workplaces where we make each other better is my friend. All right, I've got one person here in the chat. Thank you very much. So I love the concept of having one thing that the team works on pairing up and then sharing with the team. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I can't see your name, you're a LinkedIn user. But yes, that is just one thing, one purpose where we do feel connected. That is fantastic. Any other questions or takeaways? If there's no more questions, again, thank you very much for your time today, and have a great weekend. Bye.